Hey, it's Brad here. Before we get into today's podcast, I just wanted to give you a quick heads up that on the Monday after Comrades, we are hosting the official Coach Parry Aches and Pains party at Surf Riders Cafe on the Durban beachfront, but tickets are limited and they are selling fast. So if you haven't grabbed your spot yet, please scan the QR code on screen right now or head over to coachparry.com/party. We'd love to have you there. It is going to be an afternoon of incredible entertainment and fun and just celebrating your achievements at the 2025 Comrades Marathon. We've got the Minister of Champions, Rory Petzer, going to be joining us and doing some stand-up comedy for you. Lindsey and I will be doing a live recording of this podcast that you can be a part of as well. We've got lots of giveaways and lucky draws, so please do join us. As I said, seats are limited. We only have space for 100 people, and I can tell you as of right now, half of those have been sold. So they are going to sell out really quickly. Make sure that you get your ticket now and don't miss out. It's happening on Monday, the 9th of June, and we look forward to celebrating you there. Go to coachparry.com/party or simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now. Welcome on to the next edition of Down. This is the Coach Parry Comrades Marathon podcast. My name is Brad Nadalt. We've got the coach Lindsey Parry with us. Lindsey, 5 weeks to go. Last long run for me done and dusted. I say long run, longest run. There's still some long runs to come because I was going to ask you this question, but you told me before we started recording it's not true. I was going to say, can I start tapering? The answer is no.
No, not yet. And we'll talk about tapering and how to go about it in next week's podcast. So that'll be 4 weeks to go. And then the slow taper will begin. As we did say in last week's podcast, though, 50Ks is 50Ks. Most people hopefully ran 45Ks if they did Oceans, that is. Obviously, you had a race, which makes it very convenient to do your long run in race conditions, in race kit, all the good things that we've always been talking about. So you have done 50Ks and hopefully not too sore and uncomfortable, and a precautionary 3 days off running. But of course, you'll get on your bike and you will cycle on Tuesday like you always do. And then we'll finish this week off strong-ish with a 20 to 25K. But we covered all of that in last week's podcast. So just a little bit of a summary there that for the majority of the field, that's it. That's our Comrades long run done. And I know there's some route testers coming up in Natal this weekend coming. And of course, the silver medal runners are due to do their long run 4 weeks out, which is on the weekend. And so, yeah, if you didn't catch last week's podcast and you are training for silver, have a listen, because all that information is just as relevant to you doing your long run this weekend. But yeah, we're not going to take up the whole podcast to rehash last week's podcast. Just know that this is it's what it says. It's a tester, and so it's your dress rehearsal for race day. It is not race day, so don't run it too hard.
Yeah, Lindsey, I was going to say, this podcast, we're going to be talking about setting realistic goals and like what we should be aiming for on Comrades Race Day. But before we get into that, we've got some very important business to take care of. And that is making sure that your profile is up to date on the Comrades Marathon website, because today is the cutoff, okay? So we're going to sit here and wait. We're going to give you a few minutes. We'll sit here in silence while you go and check your profile, okay? Comrades.com. Make sure you've got all the green ticks. If you're a South African, they need to be 4. So you've got to have your qualifier, your club details, you've got to have your medical, and then there was another one. I can't remember what it is, but I've got 4 ticks. I know for the international runners, there's only 2 because they don't have to belong to a running club and they don't need an ASA license and all of that sort of stuff. So make sure you go do that right now, okay? Pause this if you have to, but go and do it now before you get busy. And the reason I'm making such a big deal of this, Lindsey, is because we had a client a few years ago who came all the way from Europe to run Comrades and realized at the expo that he hadn't updated his qualifying time and he didn't have a qualifying time on Comrades' system. And then it's too late. So do it now. Even if you think you've done it, go and double check. Just make 100% sure that you have got all your details updated. Because the last thing you want to do is have done all the training, done all the work, and get to Comrades and you can't run because of an admin error on your part. So go and check it right now, okay? So that's what I wanted to say. The second thing I want to say, Lindsey, is we mentioned it on last week's podcast, but we are hosting an Aches and Pains party on the Durban beachfront the day after Comrades. So the Monday after Comrades, there are only 100 tickets available. They went on sale late last week. I can tell you now, there aren't many left. So go and get your ticket now. We are looking forward to hanging out with you on Monday, celebrating you. Make sure you wear your Comrade shirt and your medal. We want to see it, okay? We want to hear all about your race. We've got some great entertainment lined up for you as well. There's lunch, there's a drink, there's a cash bar as well. So it is going to get quite festive, I'm sure. A bit of a rehydration party, if you'd like, to nurse all the aches and pains. We are so looking forward to seeing you there and hearing all about your race. So only a handful of tickets left. Make sure you click on the link that is in the description to this podcast right now. So go and check your details first, and then go get your. Actually, do it the other way around, because you don't want to miss out on the party. It's going to be good fun. So go and check your details on the Comrades website and pick up your tickets for our Aches and Pains party. It is going to be epic. We are so looking forward to it. And if you snooze, you lose. Once those tickets are sold, unfortunately, the venue doesn't allow us to take any more, and it is going to be full. So it is going to be an absolute blast, and we'd love to see you there. Lindsey, let's now talk about the important bits with regards to setting goals, because I think for most people at this stage in your Comrades training, you're probably fitter than you've ever been in your life. Obviously, we're tired because we've done a few weeks of really hard training. But this is where the danger comes, where you start thinking, maybe I can go a little bit faster than I thought I could go. But now's not the time for goal creep. How do we set a realistic goal for Comrades 2025?
Yeah, and Brad, the reason why it's so important to set that goal now-ish and to finalize that goal is because that goal escalation or goal creep that you're talking about, that tends to happen in the last 10 days as you freshen up. So right now is probably the tiredest you've ever been in your life. So May, for me always, and especially up here on the Highveld, because it's cold, but in the whole of South Africa, maybe not so much for our Northern Hemisphere internationals, but certainly for those in South Africa, it's dark, okay, and it's cold, and it can get quite wet in the Western Cape, but hopefully that'll hold off for a few weeks yet. Yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago we were just non-stop raining in Gauteng, which was not normal, but now we're cold and we're dark, and we're tired. So those are all normal feelings for right now. But it is also why it's a really good time to set that goal, because you've been training, you know what you've done, you know what you feel like. You've just done your Comrades long runs, or again in the silvers, you're about to do those. So you can take a look at the big picture. And now, assuming that you've trained fairly well, you've been on a pretty good program, you've been quite consistent, then, to be blunt, the easiest method to use is to take your marathon finishing time. There'll be a couple of exceptions, and we can talk about those. But on the whole, the best method to use is simply a 2.5 times your marathon time, and that'll give you a Comrades finishing time. We know the distance is 89.98, so we'll call it 90K. So 90K Comrades means that 2.5 times marathon is pretty accurate across the board. And with most things in life, it starts to bulge at the edges. And so please, if you ran your marathon in 4:59 and you've just done the math, it just told you you can't finish Comrades. You can, because that is life. That is how things bulge. So effectively, anything slower than a 4:50 marathon, you're targeting a finish. So if you are 4:50 to 5 hours, don't do the 2.5 times marathon, please. You are going for 11:55 to 12. That's your window. That's what you're going for. And then for everyone else, you can do 2.5 times marathon time. And then, of course, it starts to bulge at the bottom in 2. And so if you are probably around a sub 240 marathoner, but 230. So if you're a 230 marathoner, yes, I'm talking to one of you. That is double your marathon time plus an hour. So if you 2:30, you're a 6-hour Comrades runner. that's how you would work that out. So yeah, so we got on the very extremes, we do need to jiggle the maths a little bit, but for the vast majority, 2.5 times marathon time. And then if you really want to get super technical, you typically run the down run 10 minutes faster than the up run. When the dust settles and you've done 5 or 6 or 20 comrades, is typically your down run will be somewhere in the region of 10 minutes faster than your up run. So you could maybe fiddle with that a little bit and but 2.5 times marathon, Brad, that gives you a close enough, pretty accurate, and that is what you're going to run. And we can discuss how to tweak that. If you, a lot of people didn't race their marathon, or they were sick when they did their marathon, or something was up when they did their marathon, so, and they would like a better time. So how can we check if they're capable of a better time?
All right, Linz, before we get into that, adjusting your finish time if there were extenuating circumstances, something we didn't mention last week was the official route. And obviously, Comrades announced the official distance of the route just over a week ago. It's 89.98 kilometers, as you said, call it 90 Ks. The new finish is pretty much halfway between the Kingsmead Cricket Ground and the Moses Mabhida Stadium, where the race has finished in recent history. Obviously, it does make a difference on race day, but in the greater scheme of things, with regards to that calculation, does that extra little bit of distance change much on that calculation? If you're over 50 and want to recover from sessions faster, run pain and injury free, and improve your endurance, then be sure to join Lindsey and I for our upcoming Faster Beyond 50 Masterclass. In it, we'll show you how we helped a 70-year-old run a 47-minute, 18-second 10K, and how you can take those exact same principles and apply them in your training. Simply scan the QR code that's on screen right now, or click on the link in the description below to save your seat in the training now. We look forward to seeing you there.
No, I mean, to be honest, the only time that calculation didn't hold true was when they moved from Moses Mabhida to back to Kingsmead, and we had the shortest comrades ever, and then everyone was like almost 15 minutes quicker. So it threw that calculation out a little bit. But the traditional distance for the down run has always been between 89 and 90. And so we're actually back to where I feel like that 2.5 times doesn't need manipulation, to be honest. It's a good number, and it works particularly well. As I said, once you've got a bit of experience, yes, maybe 10 minutes quicker on the down, but really, 10 minutes, it's a big number, but the reality is that you're going to be 3 to 5 minutes either side of that number. That's where you're going to be.
I'm trying to figure out. I was just thinking about my best and worst Comrades times, and my best down run time is almost an hour faster. Actually, I think it is an hour faster than my best up run time, which, yeah. So either I'm overperforming on the down or I'm terribly underperforming on the up. One of the two.
Well, and it a lot to do also with your training status. So that's why I always say if someone's done 6 to 8 or more comrades, because then typically they would have been in very good shape for an up and for a down, and then typically the down run will have been quicker. I know your history better than most, so I just know that for the up run you were still quite near the beginning of your journey, and for that down run you were on fire. I mean, 10.5 hours, you were pretty damn fit.
All right, cool. Let's talk about the extenuating circumstances. I mean, for the last 3 months, you've been saying to people, don't race a marathon as your qualifier. So if people have listened, they probably have run their qualifier slower than what they're physically capable of running a marathon. How do we do that? Is it like, can you look at a 5K time? Can you look at a half marathon time? What's the best way to go about that?
Yeah, so typically we would take any distance that you have run quite hard in this sort of build up to Comrades. So whether that's a 5K time trial, 8K time trial, a half marathon, a 10K race, typically as runners, we don't just do the one and then that's it, like it's only Comrades and we race absolutely nothing else. So we'll look at other distances and races. We can use Two Oceans time, although I prefer not to, because then that really does mean that you raced the wrong race. But we can do that. And effectively what I really try and do always is break down whatever you've done, be it 5Ks, be it half marathon, and we extrapolate that to a marathon time, and then we still use that as our number. Now, there are people that get relatively better and relatively slower based on an 8K. So, for example, someone who's doing a 40-minute 8K, their relative marathon time would probably be a little over 4 hours. But two people running 40 minutes for 8K, one might be quite well under 4 hours, and the other one. So you have to then use that as to just slide that model around just a little bit. So if you are someone that traditionally has gotten relatively better than the people around you as the distance goes up, then you'll just swing that marathon time a little bit in your favor. And if you're someone who traditionally gets a bit slower in terms of the people around you as it goes longer, then you'll just give that marathon a fade. But look, we've got a race pace calculator that we use. There's quite a few of them out on the internet. It doesn't have to be super accurate, because honestly, we are dealing in 5-ish minutes when it comes to Comrades. So if the different pacing calculators aren't so different that it actually makes a huge difference to what marathon it predicts from your 5, 10, 15, 21, whatever you're using. But what we'll do is get a marathon prediction, and then take that marathon prediction, multiply it by 2.5, and that'll give you what you're targeting on race day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just so everybody knows as well, the last couple of years we've been selling our pace bands at the expo. We're going to be doing that again this year. So if you have that number in your mind, it's the reason, as Lindsey said, you want to do it now so that it doesn't creep as you start feeling better closer to race day. But that's the sort of number you are going to have in your head. Those pacing bands will be going on sale probably in the next sort of week or so, where you can pre-order them and then pick them up from our stand at the expo as well. But we'll let you know here on this podcast as soon as they are available, and then you can pick them up and get them too. And we'll talk you through how to use them on this podcast as well. So that's all coming up in the coming weeks. Lindsey, I just want to touch on something as well. We spoke last week about comparing sort of mileage and times and that to different people. And one of the things that came up post that podcast was a couple of people asking that they like really low on mileage. They've looked at what other people are doing, which we don't want people to do, but there are a bunch of people who are sitting at this stage, early May, in their Comrades training, where they feel like they haven't done nearly enough. And every year we get this. Now is now the time to try and cram some last minute long runs and extra training in May, even though we are quite close to race day? Is it a case of what's gone is gone, or can we play catch up?
No, I think that's a good question, because at the start of the podcast I literally said we're not tapering yet. Yes, we do want to take just the today, tomorrow, Wednesday, just to make sure that the long run that we did on the Comrades long run that we did on the weekend is taken kind of out of the risk of getting injured, is taken out of the legs. But then we'll still build up to having a decent week of running by the end of this weekend. And look, I'll get into this in maybe some more detail next week's pod, but effectively, with this weekend coming being 4 weeks out, we would look at, depending on how your cycle of recovery weeks is going, but you would still be in the kind of 30 to 36 kilometer range for a long run. And then the week after that, there's still room for 30-kilometer long run. So there's still going to be some kilometers coming. I had a one-on-one coaching call with a guy a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and that was one of the concerns. So I just had a look at the training that he'd been doing and said, like, and if he just carried on with the training as it was, he was going to end up with 850 Ks. And it shocked him. He was like, oh, how am I still going to run that much? And I was like, well, because there's still 7 weeks left. 2 weeks ago, we're 5 weeks now, there's 7 weeks left to race day. If you just carry on doing your 50 to 60 Ks a week, that's what you're going to end up on. And he was shocked. So I think that's part of it, is that, yes, Comrades is around the corner. Yes, we're going to start tapering soon. But we still have a couple of weeks. We've still got 3 weeks of good training. Even that first week of the proper taper is still going to be some good training. So no, Brad, we don't have to chase kilometers, but we've got a fair bit of training still to go. And if you train well for the next 3 weeks, you're going to get fitter and stronger. So don't panic. That's I think the most important message from me is don't panic. Just keep doing what you're doing. And as our consistency is key, is kind of one of our mantras always. And you're far better off doing slightly too little consistently than chasing a big number, chasing 200K weeks because everybody's doing 100. And now I'm sitting there with ITB or an Achilles problem. So don't chase mileage, but there's still time to do some decent mileage between now and race day.
Yeah, Lindsey, and we've had this discussion lots over the years, both on and offline, with regards to what's better, doing too much or too little. And I'm going to ask you that question again now as well. Like, in your personal opinion, what is better, going in having done way too much training, or going in having not enough in an ideal world?
Undercooked is always better than overcooked. Quite simply, overcooked, the best you can hope for when you're overcooked is just a miserably tiring day out on the road. But that's your best case scenario. Worst case scenario is injured or sick, or not finishing because you're so tired. So no, you always want to be slightly under. I would say you almost want to. I'd rather be well under. Although, I mean, just from a pure, I had this chat with someone running last weekend. Like, some of the things I say, if you wanted to tackle me philosophically on them, you have to be a little bit careful. Like, my other favorite is saying, like, you can't hurt yourself on the run that you don't do. All of these things, if you take them to their end degree, means that every time you're deciding whether to run or not, you would decide not to run. So we don't want to take it to its extreme. Nothing works on the extremes. But the reality is that I would always choose to wish I had done another 100 to 150 Ks in training, rather than wish that I hadn't done whatever the 20K run was that I did that I shouldn't have done. I mean, that's really, so yeah, I'd much rather be under than over.
Champions, what are you doing the day after Comrades Marathon, the day after collecting your beautiful medal? What are you doing? No, you're not going to work. I'll tell you what you're doing, but there's only 100 seats available, and it's like super exclusive, so don't tell anyone, okay? Keep it to yourself. The official Coach Lindsey Parry Aches and Pains after party. It's in Durban at Surf Riders Cafe, South Beach, from 12 o'clock in the afternoon till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Only 100 seats, don't tell anyone. What are you guaranteed? Hilarious comedy and race day stories from Rory Petzer, that's me, the Minister of Champions. Race day insights from Coach Lindsey Parry himself. A live recording of the Coach Parry podcast. Race day reflections and some battlefield stories from Brad Nadald. A gourmet burger with fries and a drink. And you're also guaranteed lucky draw prizes and giveaways all afternoon from 12 o'clock until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. What are you not guaranteed? That you'll be able to stand up after sitting down for 5 hours after Comrades Marathon, but there'll be 99 other people there to help you up if you can't. Monday, the 9th of June, from 12 to 5. Only 100 seats available. How do you book your seats? Click on the link in the video description right now. I love you. Tunels.
Yeah, Lindsey, it's quite interesting. I mean, and I'll use this as an example. It's not ideal because this isn't what we're advocating. But I had a friend, this was in 2013, so it was a while ago. It was the hot one, the really hot up run that took place. And she had run a few comrades, but she was very, very undercooked. She had like done hardly any training. I kid you not, from 1st of January to Comrades race day, she did less than 400 Ks. That's how much mileage she did. So, and I think in one of those weeks, and it might have been this week, in the build-up to Comrades that year, we did 100 Ks. It was the week of Wally Hayward because there was like lots of races. So we did 100 Ks in that week. So she did 400 Ks from the 1st of January to Comrades race day. One of those weeks was 100. So you can imagine how little she trained the rest of the time. And she got through it. So it is possible. I just always, when we talk about like the 3-in-1s and doing crazy long runs, I always sort of joke that the last place you want to find out that you've done too much is 60 Ks into Comrades, because then it's a long walk to Durban.
Yeah, and it's hard for everyone. And this is actually, I used to say this literally a lot in our when I used to do lots of Comrades talks around the country, now we do fewer with a lot more online stuff. But that was one of the things I always used to reiterate, is that that is one of the unfortunate things about Comrades, is that even when you feel good and your training has gone quite well, often we only find out at 60 to 65 Ks. And you're right, it's not a good time to find out. But you know, the warnings come before that. Again, I'm a human like everybody else. I know what to do. I don't always do it right. And I did one comrades where I was so fit and so strong that I just got it in my head that tapering, I was going to lose my fitness tapering, and that I was so fit that I actually didn't need to taper, because every 50K training run I'd done, I felt so good. So why would that change? So I got that stupid idea in my head, and I was literally tired from 17 Ks into Comrades. And that's why I say the best case scenario is just that you feel miserable all day. And I promise you, running Comrades when your legs are tired from 17 Ks, you can grind it out. So that's, I guess, the one advantage. If you're not sick or injured, you can grind it out because the fitness is there, but it's so unpleasant. And then I got on another year, I got it in my bonnet that I could somehow run a full-time job and have a family and run 180 kilometers a week. And it was exactly the same experience. I literally, from 15 Ks, I was exhausted. So, I've made the mistake so that you don't have to. I've also coached like hundreds and hundreds of people. I know when I've gotten it wrong with people, when I've gotten it right. And again, that's sort of, for Comrades, the moderate, consistent approach is the one that works.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Lindsey, the goal is so important, and that's why we wanted to spend so much time on it today. But what I really want to urge you to do is go and think about it. Write it down now, because the goal creep is real as you get closer to Comrades Race Day. And then we'll talk a little bit about the pacing charts over the next few weeks and how to make sure that you hit that goal that you have set as well. Before we wrap things up, don't forget, if you haven't bought your ticket yet for our Aches and Pains party, we'll throw in some lunch, a drink, and then some great entertainment as well on Monday after Comrades. We look forward to seeing you there. Only a handful of those tickets are left. So make sure you go click on that link in the description right now, grab your ticket, and we look forward to seeing you in Durban. Lindsey, until next week, I'm looking forward to increasing my sleep this week after a pretty hard couple of weeks of running, and I'm very much looking forward to the tape. I think a lot of people are feeling the same way as I am. You can't decide if you're tired again or still tired, but there is this serious level of fatigue. So I think I'm going to go and have a nap, and we'll chat again next week, Monday. From the two of us, take care.
Cheers.